Hello, this is Kyiv, not Kiev on the line. The holidays are behind us and a whole bunch of news from Ukraine is ahead of you.
My name is Tatiana Haiduk. This is my friend Polina Boychuk. Let's get it started!
This week was full of pride for Ukraine. On August 24, Ukraine celebrated the 30th anniversary of Independence Day.
It is fair to say that this anniversary is rather the restoration of our independence. Ukrainian statehood dates back to the time of Kyiv Rus.
The difficult fate that befell our country led it through bloody wars and revolutions, the Holodomor and hardships of the Soviet past.
Having hardened in the battles for their freedom and statehood, Ukrainians continue their struggle even now. Russia's armed aggression against Ukraine continues. Therefore, remembering the Ukrainian heroes who gave their lives for Ukraine, at yesterday's celebration of Independence Day, we paid a special tribute to the heroes who continue defending their homeland.
After the welcoming speech of the President of Ukraine and the awarding ceremony that followed, a grand parade awaited thousands of people who came to the Independence Square on the 24th of August.
Military units, military equipment and aircraft are the reason to be proud of the Ukrainian army, which has been reborn from the scratch since 2014 in the difficult conditions of the war with Russia. I could not hold back tears of delight and pride staring at the noble faces of Ukrainian soldiers walking around Hryshchatyk.
Following military plane that ensure peace from the air and evacuate thousands of wounded from the battlefield, the Ukrainian dream flew Mriya, the largest aircraft in the world. Its size is really impressive and it can playfully flutter its wings around the sky.
Kyiv also held the March of the Defenders of Ukraine, veterans of the Russian-Ukrainian War, volunteers, relatives of those killed in the war, festive celebrations. Thousands of smiling people on the streets of every town and village of Ukraine. Ukrainians value their independence and know its price.
And already after the solemn and official festive events in the evening, at one of the largest stadiums in the country, NSK Olympiyskiy, Ukrainians enjoyed the beautiful music and songs that remind of the past and fill with hope for a great future. Happy Independence Day, Ukraine! We are very proud, we love and we appreciate.
47 states and international organizations gathered on August 23 in Kyiv for the inaugural summit of the Crimea Platform. It's a multi-level international format created to achieve the deoccupation of Crimea.
The introduction of the Crimean Platform was first announced a year ago in our interview with Deputy Foreign Minister Emina Japarova, specifically for Kyiv, not Kyiv, and since then the platform has been a constant focus of our attention.
In every interview with foreign ambassadors, we included a question about their state's participation in the Crimean Platform, and their firm yes, which we have heard every time, resulted in a powerful representation of the world community at the platform.
We've been invited to join the Crimea Platform and we're very pleased about that, and so I have no doubt that there will be room for Canada there.
Following the developments regarding this Crimea Platform initiative very closely.
It marked the beginning of the countdown to the return of Crimea home to Ukraine.
All 47 summit participants pledged to consider further tightening sanctions against the Kremlin, the Russian Federation, if Russia's actions required to do so, and pledged to use the appropriate mechanisms from the UN, the Council of Europe, the OSCE, and other international and regional organizations to address issues that are related to temporary occupation.
It did not go without trolling Russia. The summit participants invited Russia to participate in the deoccupation of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea and Sevastopol.
Following this summit, participants issued a declaration that reaffirmed their determination to pressure Russia to end the temporary occupation of Crimea. The Crimean Platform has also established the national office in Kyiv. Each country participating in the inaugural summit will appoint its representative there.
The culmination and most emotional moment was the speech of the Crimean Tatars people leader Mustafa Dzhemilev. Dzhemilev recalled the deportation deportation in 1944 and noted that Russia again forces Crimean Tatars to leave their homes.
He noted that the international community is talking about red lines they will not allow Russia to cross, although it has been crossing those lines for years now in Moldova, in Georgia and Ukraine. The jackals dominate while the lions sleep, Mustafa Djemilev concluded with the old Crimean proverb, and we could not agree more.
It should be noted that the Crimean Platform summit caused a lot of hassle in Russia. The Russians were so upset that their atrocities in the international arena would not go unnoticed that they even imposed sanctions against diplomats involved in the summit preparation, including Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba. It's an unprecedented step because sanctions are usually not imposed on ministers of foreign affairs in order to maintain dialogue. Also, when in the history of humankind, have the Russians ever cared about the rules of decency?
On August 23, the summit of First Ladies and Gentlemen took place in the beautiful territory of the National Reserve Park of St. Sophia's Cathedral. First Lady of Ukraine, Olena Zelenska, initiated this event to be held in Kyiv this summer.
This is the first international platform for resolving issues that need to be addressed as a matter of priority. But on the many presidents' agendas, unfortunately, they are not always the first, Zelenska said in a welcoming speech.
Issues of equality, human development, access to medical and social services, women rights, protection, children and families became the main highlights of the summit program. Soft power in the new reality. This was the theme of the high-level meeting with the participation of wives and husbands of heads of more than 20 states. Former Secretary General and First Lady Hillary Clinton, American actress and public figure Robin Wright, American publicist and economist, author of the bestsellers Black Swan and Anti-Fragile Nassim Taleb, Afghan director Sahra Karimi also joined the discussion.
The summit was held in the form of discussion panels. Following its results, participants signed an open declaration which recorded the desire for joint action.
It is important to note, however, that although the First Ladies and Gentlemen play a significant part in their respective countries, their cooperation with each other on the international level has never been formalized within any such framework. So Ukraine became the first here taking a leading role in the creating of the platform for discussions. And we hope that the format will only expand in the future. The ladies of all countries will be able to freely share experiences and ideas to address those humanitarian issues that directly affect our lives but are not a priority on the agenda of our president. On August 23, $2.7 billion were transferred from the IMF to Ukraine's account, said the first deputy chairman of the National Bank of Ukraine, Katerina Roshkova. It looks like a gift for the Independence Day. How and why were these funds granted to Ukraine?
Special drawing rights, equivalent to $650 billion, were distributed among the countries. It's the largest SDR relocation in the history of the fund, according to the official statement of the IMF. This way, the IMF aspires to facilitate the recovery of the world economy from the worst recession since the Great Depression. Ukraine will receive its $2.7 billion free of charge and without any additional conditions.
Zelensky stressed that this money would help overcome the effects of the COVID crisis and will stimulate the Ukrainian economy. The president thanked the IMF and its head, Kristalina Georgieva, for this decision.
Ukrainian experts fear that this free tranche will demotivate the Ukrainian government. After all, realizing that thanks to such gift from the IMF, Ukraine will be able to close some urgent needs now, the authorities may lose motivation to pursue further reforms to obtain funds under the standby loan program, which requires reforms.
While Ukraine needs to prove its commitment to sustainable reforms and their ongoing implementation to international partners, this tranche could pose real risks, and the IMF mission will visit Ukraine already in September.
Apart from the lavish celebrations of the anniversary of Ukrainian independence, the event that took place a few days earlier did not escape our attention. German Chancellor Angela Merkel paid a working visit to Ukraine.
The visit became a symbolic farewell. With it, Merkel summed the Germany's bilateral relations with Ukraine during the 16 years she served as the Chancellor. The President of Ukraine awarded her the Order of Freedom, the highest state award that a foreign citizen can receive.
Mutti, or Frau Ribbentrop, is the title of my article in the European Pravda, in which I tried to explore Merkel's Ukrainian heritage. It's difficult to underestimate the role of Angela Merkel, and it would be wrong to do so. Condemnation of the annexation of Crimea, negotiating efforts for a peaceful settlement in Donbass within the Normandy format, a leading role in the EU's consolidated sanctions policy towards Russia, unequivocal support for reforms in Ukraine, including financial support. It's every reason to be grateful to Merkel.
However, the contradiction in the attitude of Ukrainians toward Merkel exists because she is considered the one who blocked Ukraine's prospective membership into NATO in 2008, which later untied Russian hands. Ukrainians do not forget also the policy of dialogue with Russia and her mistake in seeing Putin as an interlocutor with whom she could compromise.
Actually, there is a reason to believe that Merkel acknowledged this mistake. That is why she tried to compensate it with her efforts in favor of Ukraine. However, the term deep concern with which Merkel often replaced the decisive action in favor of Ukraine has become synonymous with the political inaction.
Despite Germany's undoubted inclusion in the Ukrainian agenda and the significant support we have received from Germany since 2014, Merkel's last visit as Chancellor took place at the height of problems that the geopolitical interests of Ukraine and of Germany have exposed in bilateral relations.
This is an agreement between Germany and the United States to complete the construction of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline, which lacks mechanisms or security guarantees to compensate for the losses and risks that arise for Ukraine.
We should also note that even after the visit of the Chancellor, the question marks on security guarantees have not diminished. I want to understand what Ukraine will gain and what it may lose after 2024. This is the year the transmit agreement with Russia expires, and who will give Ukraine those guarantees, President Zelensky said at a joint briefing following the talks. So during these negotiations, no clarity on guarantees was provided.
Merkel's visit was poisoned by two more circumstances. First, before visiting Kiev, Merkel was in Moscow. I have the impression that before the conversation with Ukrainian president, she intended to discuss the topic of this conversation with Putin. Second, the Chancellor visited Ukraine just before the inaugural summit of the Crimean Platform, but did not stay for the summit. To put it mildly, this is a dubious diplomatic signal from a politician whose intentions include passing the concern for security guarantees for Ukraine to her successor.
Moreover, at the last moment, the German representation at the summit was changed. Instead of the Minister for Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Economy and Energy came. The United States has also replaced previously announced representative, its transport minister, with the energy minister from their side. However, this allowed the Ukrainian side to initiate a tri-party meeting of the ministers of energy of Ukraine, Germany, and the United States, this devoted to the Nord Stream 2.
The Merkel era is coming to an end. Assessing Merkel's Ukrainian heritage, it's essential to remember that she's the Chancellor of Germany, not the Prime Minister of Ukraine. Therefore, Germany's interests will always prevail for both her and her successor.
However, Angela Merkel, a holder of the Order of Freedom of Ukraine, has done a lot for Ukraine during her long political career, to be remembered with gratitude. From Kyiv, not Kiev especially.
Let's end this incredibly rich news digest with a little present by technology giant Apple to Ukrainians. Siri voice assistant will finally speak Ukrainian.
Yay! Finally! And judging by the latest news, this is an event of the new future. It is not the first company step to meet Ukrainian users' requirements. In June, Apple opened an official representative office in Ukraine. Apple also actively took up the Ukrainian localization of products. Even before the opening of the Kyiv office, the company launched the Ukrainian language version of its website.
Well, that's all the news for today. Thank you for staying with us. Have a nice weekend.
It was Polina Bochuk and Tatiana Haiduk. Stay safe, stay kind, and remember, it's Kyiv, not Kiev.
From Ukraine, with love.